So how does a side project with literally zero business plan explode to over 1.2 million subscribers? And what kind of unconventional, frankly wild experience gave its creator the confidence to even get started?
We are going to deconstruct the story of Lenny Rachitsky because, honestly, the answer reveals this incredibly powerful framework that any creator can use. It is quite a ride.
Okay, let's start with this number, 1.2 million subscribers. That's the kind of scale we're talking about here. And the really wild part, this whole newsletter started out as just a side project. There was absolutely no intention of it ever becoming a business.
So, you have to ask, if this massive success wasn't the plan, what was the plan? Well, as it turns out, he had a very clear and very different plan already in place.
After spending 7 years at Airbnb, Lenny laid out these 4 very concrete options for his next move. And as you can see, writing a newsletter isn't on the list. Not even close. Its success was a total accident, which brings us to our first major principle.
Right, so instead of just forcing one of his A, B, C, or D plans to work, he started to pay attention to these little signals, this pull that was leading him down a completely new path.
And this pull really came from 3 key moments. First, look at step 1. He gets that outside validation when a post he wrote just goes viral. Okay, cool. Then, step 2. A friend gives him some really sharp strategic advice. But the final piece, the deep internal confidence, this is where it gets crazy. It came from a psychedelic experience where the phrase, "I have wisdom to share," just kept repeating in his head for 3 hours straight. That was it. That became the core belief that finally convinced him he could actually do this.
Okay, so armed with this new confidence, he starts the newsletter. But how did he make the jump to actually turning it into a business? Well, he didn't just flip a switch one day. No, he applied a really rigorous mental model to the whole thing.
He basically made a deal with himself. You are going to write this for free every single week for 9 months straight, no excuses. Only after he proved that level of commitment to himself would he even think about asking other people to pay for it. And 9 months wasn't just some random number, it was based on a pretty powerful concept.
He was using something called the Lenny effect. The theory is actually pretty simple. The longer something has survived, the longer it's likely to keep surviving. So by making it through those first 9 months, he had hard proof that the project was durable enough to last at least another 9. This wasn't a leap of faith, it was a really calculated bet on himself. But look, a solid business model, it's not enough. You need great content. And the content itself is driven by this core philosophy that really separates it from all the generic advice you see floating around online.
He makes this really hard distinction between 2 types of advice. The newsletter focuses exclusively on what he calls practitioner advice, insights from people who are in the trenches actually doing the work. In fact, most of his posts now are guest posts from experts sharing the single most valuable lesson from their entire career.
But let's be real for a second. Delivering that level of quality every single week, it's not easy. That relentless consistency and the success that comes with it has a very real and very stressful downside.
This is how he describes the pressure. It's like that giant boulder from Indiana Jones is constantly chasing him. The second one post is published, the boulder for next week's deadline is already rolling right behind him. It's a creative treadmill that just never stops.
And that pressure isn't just creative, it's operational. He launched this amazing product pass, a huge software bundle with tools like Cursor and Replit, but it attracted the wrong kind of attention. Fraud rings and student networks, mostly from China, launched this sophisticated attack exploiting his API to steal all the free offers. It turned into a week-long high-stakes battle, where his engineer had to work around the clock with no sleep just to secure the business. All right, let's do a quick, high-density recap of the core facts. We started with 1.2 million subscribers, a number he reached after a 7-year run at Airbnb, and despite having 4 completely different backup plans. The decision to go paid, that came after a deliberate 9-month test, a strategy guided by the Lenny effect, and the whole thing is built on that core philosophy of practitioner-led advice. So if there is one single piece of practical, underlying logic you take away from this whole explainer, let it be this. Don't listen to the pundits. Listen to the people who have actually been there and done it. So let's make this real for you. If you were to start your own content project right now, what would be your absolute very first step? Leave your plan in the comments below, and I will personally help you think through some of the potential pitfalls. Seriously, drop a comment with your plan. You'll also get a link to the full tool list and the mind map from this explainer. Thanks so much for watching.